Hey everyone, and welcome to this Meet the Speaker video. I'm here today with Ryan Schouten. How are you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. How you doing, Vlad?
I'm doing pretty good. The snow is finally starting to melt a bit this week. We're in the pluses, so getting closer to California day by day.
Oh yeah, beautiful weather here. I can't complain.
Lucky. I wish I had my convertible Mustang so I can drive it all day, or a bike like you have.
Yep,
And
it makes it beautiful.
use it in January.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One day.
It's cold in January, but it works.
Wait, cold you mean in the 70s, right?
Well, in the 40s, but
It's still over zero, so if my math is right, it's still over 0 Celsius.
yeah, still over there. Yep.
Just before we go on, can you do a quick introduction about yourself?
Sure. I'm Ryan Schouten. I am a senior systems engineer on Office 365 at Blizzard Entertainment. I've been working with SharePoint for a while. I'm a Office Apps and Services MVP. Yeah, been working with SharePoint for a long time, which we'll get to that in a minute. Also a developer for quite a few years before then, and yeah, living here in Southern California, nice and sunny and warm. So,
For how long have you been working with SharePoint? You said for a while, and I like how you hesitated a bit, for a while.
I've been working with SharePoint since the end of 2006.
And what were you doing before that?
Before that, I was a ASP.NET developer, so working on intranets and those sort of solutions. The company I was at the time said, hey, we're doing SharePoint. You're the web team lead. Go figure it out. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So got it figured out. Documentation back then really sucked. So it was a lot of trial and error for the most part.
And so you started with SharePoint 2007, right?
Yeah, I started with 2007, then kind of did a side job helping migrate some code and things from 2003 to 2007. So.
How do you feel about SharePoint now? It changed a lot, didn't it?
Oh, it's changed a lot. And from what I've seen, for the most part, for the better. It still has a lot of the idiosyncrasies that older SharePoint had, just because it's a lot of the same code in the back end, but I think the UI and interface is getting a lot better, makes it a lot easier for people to do what they need to.
So as a dev, you've seen the rise and depth of sandbox solutions, I guess. The rise and depth, because I think Infopad and Designer came out in 2007, if I remember correctly, right?
So yeah, I don't know where those came out because those were I wasn't using Infopad back then. I was saying, hey, I'm a hardcore dev. I'm going to code the snot out of this thing.
Yeah, that was the mentality back then, I guess, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of those things starting out, especially trying to figure out, you're like, okay, you learn along the way what should be done instead of what can be done. Because as a dev, you're like, oh, I can code this, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, SharePoint already does it.
Yeah, and you've also been speaking at a bunch of conferences for quite a few years now, right?
Yep.
Do you remember what your first ever event and session were?
I remember what the first event was. Actually, do I remember what my first session was? No, it's been far enough back. I don't remember what the session was. It was SharePoint Saturday Utah back, I think it's either 2011 or 2012. One of those years. So yeah, it's just been far enough back. I don't remember what the actual topic was, but it was before that I was attending SharePoint Saturdays. And I was like, after a while, I was like, okay, I'm getting bored. I already know all the stuff they're talking about. So I was like, came to the moment where I was like, okay, I either need to get off my butt and contribute and make this better, or just continue being bored. So I'm like, okay, I'd spoken at user groups before, so I was like, okay, well, how hard can this be? And so I started doing it and loved it ever since, loved the community, so I was like, okay, I'll stick with it.
You've even organized a few events, right? You were a part of the organizing board for Utah and for San Diego.
Correct.
Correctly.
Yeah, I did Utah for 2 years, and then I moved here, and then did ran San Diego this last one in January.
Nice. And you've also attended or spoken at a few of the big Microsoft SharePoint conferences, right?
Now, this will be my first speaking my first SharePoint conference. I've attended them all, Since
Oh,
I've
okay.
attended every single one since 2009, I believe.
Wow. Wow.
Every single one of them was like,
That is-
sweet, score, got them all.
So you did Anaheim, you did Vegas, you really did all of them. Which one of them was your
Yeah, Vegas all 3 years, all 3 times. I should.
favorite? Yeah. Which one of them was your favorite?
I think I honestly liked Anaheim the best. And part of it I think is I have an affinity for the warmer weather, and Southern California makes it kind of nice. Then also the attendee party at Disneyland. You can't beat that.
That is true. If you want warm weather, by the way, Inspire in Vegas, July 15th. You're going to get more warm weather than you ever wished for.
I've been to Vegas in July. That's not what I would call warm weather. That's hot weather.
Boiling.
Yeah.
But you're speaking this year. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm totally excited. Like I said, it's going to be my first time. It's like one of those goals, like, okay, all these years attending SharePoint conference, now I actually get to speak at it. I'm like, sweet, made it.
What are you speaking on?
I'm going to be speaking on adopting Microsoft Stream.
Cool. So not on the dev realm. You
Not
went
dev.
completely outside went on the more adoption.
Yeah, a lot of times, like speaking at different conferences, it's like, okay, dev sessions are cool. I love doing dev, but there are other areas that seem to get a little more draw, a little more, and little less attention spent to them. So had a project here last year working with Stream, like, okay, I love this thing. I was like, okay, so I started been working it quite a bit, trying to push it and communicating, working with community on it. And I was like, hey, why not submit a session on that? It's not one of those areas that's not going to be a lot of competition for people speaking on. So I was like, why not? I'll give it a shot.
Oh, that's really cool. Talking also a bit about Vegas, and you mentioned that one of the main reasons, other than the weather, that you remember Anaheim was the Disney party. And
Yep.
the party has always been a big topic about Microsoft SharePoint conference.
Yep.
What do you think are we going to do this year? Because at least at the time of recording this, I don't think it has been announced yet. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I don't know if they've actually announced that yet. We're almost to a month out, and they haven't announced anything. So I'm still kind of curious. I know a lot of times in Vegas, they like doing the poolside concerts, but
If you had to take a bet, what would you put your money on?
I would probably go with more of the same. They would probably just find a band and do another poolside party type thing. So they've done it quite a few times. They know how to do it. But I'm also, personal opinion, it'd also be nice for a little change too, to be honest. It's like do something a little different, a little more involved. Because the concerts are cool, but a lot of times it's just loud and you can't really interact with people too much.
I guess we'll find out hopefully really soon because I'm really looking forward to put it on my calendar. Right now it's all what night is what party.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's like, okay, I've got stuff all set up. I've got work approved. I was like, okay, now what is the after hours networking activities going to look like?
Oh, but I'm sure we'll figure that part out.
I'm sure we'll get there.
Well, that is all. Thank you very much for your time, Ryan. Great talking to you as always. And looking forward to seeing you in Vegas.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.